A microdose is taking a very low dose of a substance that we wish to connect to in a way that is sub-perceptible. So it's still a therapeutic effect on our neurons and our brain chemistry, but we're not actually going into a full process. We're able to go about our daily lives whilst we're still connecting with the essence of these teachers. In this video, I'm going to be discussing two forms of microdoses. Both are from the fungi realm. One is Amanita muscaria, which is also known as fly agaric, and the other are psilocybin containing mushrooms such as liberty caps and cubensis. Amanita muscaria is becoming more popular as a microdose as people are realizing her amazing capacity for healing. So traditionally, people are kind of connecting with her for anxiety and addiction. But it's very interesting with her because she has two major components. And they're kind of at the opposite end of the scales in terms of their effect. So we call that an amphoteric effect. So on the one hand, if we're working with the mushroom when it has a high amount of ibotenic acid, it can be a very energizing, inspiring, uplifting energy to work with. Whereas if we're working with her at the other end of the spectrum, if we've converted more of the ibotenic acid into muscimol through a decarboxylation process, which is often done using an acid base, for example, like lemon, we can then access a different type of energy from this mushroom, which is more soporific. So it can help with things for insomnia and anxiety. This particular mushroom works through the GABA receptors of the brain. So that's traditionally where things like alcohol and benzos are received. And so if one has had a tendency to reach for those particular substances to try to assist, in a kind of non-conscious healing way, then this might be a good one for you to explore. Amanita is also deeply empowering. It's probably one of the reasons that it's less well known is because it is considered a mushroom of empowerment, really helping you to step back into that absolute container of your truth. Psilocybin's effects on the neurochemistry are more akin to what Miracle-Gro is for flowers. It's able to help the brain to actually form new connections. So if there are well-trodden paths of neuronal connections which are unhelpful, it can actually interfere with those, break them, and form new, healthier connections. So it's very good for, again, some of the things like depression, which, neuronal connections can be lost during depressive episodes. And so it can help to rewire. And it's also very good for creativity, inspiration, and connection. It seems to have this ability to kind of like create networks, not just in the brain, but out in life as well, which seem to be very beautiful connections, and many of you are telling us about those experiences that you're having as well. Another question is to do with when should you take the microdose and the frequency. So that's really going to depend on what it is that you're hoping to achieve with the microdosing in the first place. So with Amanita, for example, we normally take that in the morning. But if you're trying to use that to treat insomnia, for example, you would use the decarboxylized version and use that in the evening. With psilocybin, again, these tend to be taken in the morning. It doesn't matter too much whether it's before breakfast or after, but to be honest. I normally take it first thing because it's how I then want to go and connect with that energy, which I'll come on to in a bit. In terms of frequency, again, that's going to depend on what it is that you're trying to treat. So if you are, for example, swapping out, pharmaceutical depression tablets, SSRIs, for example, you would maybe want to come on to a daily dose so that your brain is, being supported as you would be as if you were taking an SSRI. And then moving forward, of course, you'd want to try to start to taper off of those so that you're not completely reliant. And then the great thing about being able to take these mushrooms is they don't take any building up in the system, unlike your traditional antidepressants, which can take several weeks to kick in. If you know that something has happened or is about to happen, then you can kind of work with the mushroom to just take it on that day, and it's going to have an effect in that day. Some people say that they also, when they microdose, they feel the effect if they don't microdose the next day. Sometimes they feel that it can even have like what we call a half-life and be experienced for almost 48 hours. So if you are looking to treat something like severe like that, then to begin with a daily dose is really recommended. If you're looking for connection, inspiration, guidance, spiritual advancement, then you can form a plan that is either, like, quite often people do 30 days to start off with to really connect with the energy, and then they might just microdose as and when. Or even if that feels like that's too much, then you can just do sort of 1 day on, 2 days off. One of the things that I really try to do is choose a day when I haven't got like an overwhelm of the amount of things coming at me, so that I've got time to really nourish this connection, which we're going to talk about next. So creating authenticity around your microdose practice is a real game changer. For me, that always starts with a real prayer for connection and a humbling of myself in front of this like energy, which I feel is like a superior consciousness to mine. So I have a daily meditative practice, and so if I'm going to take my microdose, I would take that and then go and sit in my meditation space and say a prayer of intention. In the traditions that I have been trained in the Kero tradition, we use a programming breath where we basically connect really deeply with our heart and then stop and listen. Like, what is the prayer? What's the most alive thing for you that's coming through that day? Maybe you really need to call upon greater presence. Maybe you need to call in, some inspiration and ideas. Maybe you just want to be in a real flow state. Whatever that is, just take a moment to really tune and make sure that you've got that intention set in your heart. And then we use the breath as this like chariot to convey this heart message through the breath, which is our conveyance of spirit into the matter. So we're holding the microdose and we use this little programming breath. So, just very sweetly and lovingly, help me to step into greater flow today, Amanita. And then we receive the microdose and we drink it down with the water. And basically the prayers activate within us. We become our prayers. We walk that prayer out into life. So that's the very sort of beginning of the connection. And then what I would do is I would sit with that in meditative space for, minimum of 20 minutes to 30 minutes and just allow some space to see what's alive, what's coming up for me, and be really present with that energy. It's also very interesting to kind of create awareness points through the day. So cultivating an attitude of mindfulness. Like our brains can just come up with so many thoughts, and the majority of them can be really quite negative. But it's very interesting as the day goes on to kind of just like review, like, where's that inspiration coming at me from? Is this a microdose? Is it me? Is it kind of a collaborative like effect of the two things together? And get a bit curious. And normally what I would do at the end of a day is also to just sit down with my journal and just review and maybe make a few notes, because sometimes when changes happen, they can be very subtle. And, we might not even remember that 2 weeks ago, actually, we were feeling really depressed because we're so in the current moment. And actually, we've noticed if we look back through a journal, we can see that actually there's been a real improvement in our conditions. So tracking is another way of really helping to kind of get the most out of your microdose, or to realize how you're getting the most out of your microdose. I'm also feeling very passionate at the moment that this is something that we should be talking about. I mean, of course, there are difficulties for some people, you know, with the jobs that we do, and you know, maybe we fear kind of reprisals and things like that. But to the appropriate people, I feel like it's really a powerful thing to talk about the benefits that we are experiencing from working with these particular mushrooms. And, you know, whatever plants it is, you know, it's worth having these conversations, because we are limited somewhat. You know, we can't always shout from the rooftops on social media. And even if we do, sometimes those things are suppressed. But we are, you know, we are walking mycelium networks here. And so it is up to us as well to be personally responsible and help others to connect to this work, especially if we can see that they're suffering. So yeah, please do share, and sending you so much love.